we're officially beginning. I've had my chance to torture kids. We'll see. We're getting into Monday, March 15th, and Tuesday, March 16th. We are almost done with Greek mythology. We officially finish it next week. Next Wednesday, Thursday, we have our big test that we're going to take like the entire class period or like half the class period to give you a chance to do. It'll be like 30, 40 questions, something like that. Some of you guys will get through it pretty quickly. Others of you may be a bit more of a struggle. Blue sheet also comes due, and you are turning that in for a grade, but you're not turning that in until the week after that. So that week right before spring break, because you get to use the blue sheet on the test. So you're going to use it on the test. Then the next week you turn it in for a grade. For the blue sheet, in theory, it should be an easy grade because I've literally given you all the answers. So it should make it a nice, easy, you're going to turn it in and then get a whole big grade and bump up your grade and make things better. If you've not been doing any of the work, then it'll be tougher for you because, you know, choices and stuff like that. But you will be turning that in here in another 2 weeks or so. Today, we're going to do a little bit of review, and then we're going to jump into 2 stories about teenagers who are idiots and pick fights with gods. So I have 2 different idiot teenager stories. It's okay. They both end in death. So things will go well from there. And then we have a big story coming up on Wednesday, Thursday, which is going to be a guy by the name of Heracles. Sometimes
who will fight me though? That's the real question.
And me also taking away kids' ability to yell at me. By kids, I mean Jeriel, who, much like Blaze, likes to just yell right in the middle of me talking. And so Heracles' story on Wednesday, Thursday. Then we have one last story coming in next week as we finish out all of this, and then we'll be done. And then we're going to be reading a story about kids dying, like an actual novel. So that's what we finished the year doing, is reading some books about kids dying. And then I think we're good to go. I feel the same way.
What about killing babies?
I mean, they're young children, but they're not really babies. The baby killing is just your hobby on the weekend. We just won't be able to have it in the book. As awful as that might be. Clicky. What? I forgot I froze the screen. It's so embarrassing. There we go. Home children, again, when you keep disappearing off the screen, eventually I'm just going to remove you. For those of you, just keep you in the loop and blah, blah, blah. All right. Homeworky bits. This is my reminder up there to have kids work on the missing work, but I've already told the kids that's why they're currently standing. Hopefully they're going to get a chance to get it done, and we'll check and let them sit here in a little bit. And then, let's see, we have that one. And then we did this one with the quiz, this one before. And then same thing with this one, and then the quiz. Speaking of quiz, let's go through quiz.
No.
Okay. Didn't know you hated the quiz that much, sir, Jane. You're not taking it again. I'm just going over the answers with you. Why was it Zeus has Pandora created?
Fire.
Fire?
Yeah. Fire.
Oh, there you go. You are correct. Mankind learned how to make fire, and he wants to punish them and make them have to suffer for it. So he creates women as their punishment. Because prior to this, we did not have women and did not have evil.
That's why we're here.
Way to own it, Finley. Which of the following statements is an opinion that was in the story?
I love what I do. I'm a good teacher.
Same thing I have said multiple times right before I got fired also. And what does Athena put into the box?
Hope.
And so we're going to do a quick review of that story also, but that would be the whole hope thing that goes into it from there. And then, hang on, we're going to do this thing. Are you guys yelling about your hair?
No. Both of her. Okay, I'm an aunt and Hope, and she is an aunt. Oh, no, I don't.
See, she was just confused.
Well, our favorite colors are purple.
When we get to the underworld, what is the major obstacle that prevents anyone from getting into it?
Rivers.
Well, the problem is, Jeriel, you like to just, turn off your camera and then just yell at me nonstop. So that's why I took it away. You made me have to go mean to you. And yes, I took either Styx or River. And even though it says one word, I did take River Styx because I figured some of you guys are not good at counting. Although I did have a kid who complained because they wrote down the River Styx and then got mad at me because I did not count it. And I had to point out to them how counting works. It's only supposed to be a one-word answer. But
Did they end up getting a point though?
if they email me, they did not for the thing because I did not know they put that down. They yelled at me, and then I yelled at them back, and then they were responding. Why did Zeus agree to Demeter's demands?
The food again.
Again, is exact. Again, he only cares about humans as far as they give him what he wants, which is sacrificing. Beyond that, he can care less about humans. What did my shirt connect to?
Service.
Is
Yeah,
correct.
Not actually Care Bears.
Care Bearess, the Care Bear of the underworld.
Isn't
The body of water that's located in the middle of the earth.
Mediterranean Sea.
Matt, I'm going to go back over that again on the off chance that some of you guys did not pay attention to that when we did it. Which of these Olympians' mothers did Hera not attempt to torture in any way?
Hephaestus.
Because who was Hephaestus' mom?
Hera.
My goal with this one was, as long as you know who each mother was, it should be an easy answer. But I had a lot of people put down Dionysus. No, Hera talked her into dying because he made Zeus go and do them. So I definitely think getting tortured and killed would qualify in that area. Hephaestus' mom gets not tortured at all because she was Hephaestus' mom. Hi, Door Goblin. And 9, what special ingredient did get put into Tantalus' stew?
Human flesh.
And so again, for those of you who like to cheat and use your Googling, if you Google Tantalus stew, the first thing that comes up is ingredients, human flesh. So for those of you who want to make dinner for the family this week, they're like, can you make food? Like, I can make Tantalus stew. And they're going to go, okay. And then you can just turn and look at your sibling and be like, and then go chasing after them and be like, it's educational when you stab them.
Hello, Jimmy.
What's up, Mina?
What story was that in?
This was in the one that you had to read on your own last Monday when I was absent, and I gave you guys a handout, and I gave you guys a video and said, make sure you do this. Yeah. And then a lot of kids did not do it, and they kept emailing me on the quiz, and they're like, we never covered this. And I was like, yeah, you have to do it on your own. They're like, but I'm lazy.
I didn't even know we were supposed to do that.
Yeah, I like way to fight that responsibility thing, Jerry. I'm so proud of you. And if you were really good in the underworld, where do you get to go?
Elysian Field.
And that was the name for the happy place. Asphodel Fields is where we send everybody, and then the Elysian Fields is for the really good people. Or the really, really good people is Isle of the Blessed, but we'll come back to that. One of these questions we absolutely bombed, and we were at 39%. Only a third of the kids got it correct. My question is, which one do you... 7?
2.
All right.
The Mediterranean stew one.
And a 10.
The second one.
That's 2 different ones. The stew or the Mediterranean? Those are 2 different
Why
ones.
not say stew?
I have no idea. And then I see
Wait, no, opinion in the article.
8, and Delaney only half your hand on the paper. Right, there you go. Is that a 7, Delaney? All right. And then I also see an 8 and an 8. You guys feel strong about 8, huh? Let's go with.
7.
By the way, the answer is
7.
not 8.
Yeah.
2.
So 2
7.
and
8.
no, it's not 2 either.
4.
Is that a 7?
Yeah.
9.
Let's see, is it 7? It is 7.
I was right.
No.
So the water in the middle of the earth was the one that we had trouble with.
I said it first. So.
Now,
Yeah, sure you did.
there were 3 other ones that we still struggled on and got like 60%. Those are the ones you guys were mentioning. So that's where the underground for good people comes in, the mom that Hera did not torture, and the first major obstacle. So those are the other ones that kids struggled on. The remaining questions, you guys did well on. Those are like up in the 80s and 90s and stuff like that. So go you. But yeah, apparently the water in the middle of the earth, because a lot of kids did not go and watch the video that explained it, and apparently it came back to haunt them. Which is why we're going to go back, and I'm going to touch on that again here in just a moment to try and help you guys out. But before we do that, we're going to practice, and then we're going to torture some kids and have them stand up and go. Because apparently I already have one volunteer on the list who gets to go here in just a second. And then we're going to go through some other ones. Not until after we cry. Let's practice it together, and then we'll begin the torturing and having you guys get a chance to do it. All right. And we have... Wait, hang on. I apologize. There you go. We take it off the screen so you can't cheat.
He's nuts. Got him.
Drunkenness.
By the way, blue children, I believe we're going to try and have most of you go on Wednesday, Thursday. If you have not gone yet, you will be getting a chance to go. We're going to try and knock out the rest of you. And then gray children who have not gone will probably end up hitting you guys next week. But we're getting closer and closer. I'm going to have to pause our video for those of you who are at home because we're getting ready to put kids on screen and we're going to try to keep it as uncreepy as possible. So we're going to pause and then come back. Resume, we're back. All right, so we got to perform with the children and things went wonderfully. What a happy day. On your blue sheet, since you should have them all done, I want to run through number 60 on the off chance you've not done the little drawing bits that go along with it. On 60, you have to do the drawing bits because you're going to draw what the earth looks like. What does the earth look like?
Circle.
There you go. It is a big flat plate. What does the sky look like?
A bowl on top of it.
Go. It is a bowl on top of it. So you're going to have to draw a big flat plate for land, round bowl for the sky, and you don't have to put this in there, but just to make sure you know, who is it that is between the mountain and the sky?
Oh, Atlas.
That's where Atlas comes in. And they have a giant body of water that's right here. Essentially, if you were to take the earth and then rotate it, so it went up this way, it would look like a giant donut. Where there's a big thing of water right here in the middle. And if you went around it, it was like Spain, Greece, Turkey, Northern Africa, giant body of water. So they thought this body of water was literally in the center of the earth because it was just land that went around it. If you kept going on Africa, you'd get to the edge, Turkey edge. So if you went in any direction, you would eventually get to the edge of the world because they didn't know America existed or Australia existed. They did not know they were there. So, the body of water that's located in the middle of the world was called?
Mediterranean.
That's the Mediterranean Sea. And there is a reason why it's called the Mediterranean Sea. Mediterranean breaks down into two Greek words, medi and terran. Medi means?
In the middle.
In the middle. Terran?
Land.
Land, earth, terrain. So that's why it was called the Mediterranean, as they thought it was located right in the middle of everything. So they called it the Mediterranean Sea. Still called that to this day, even though we know it's not in the middle of anything. It's just right there. With Operation Pandora, just to give you the speedy version of this one, humans had now gotten fired. Zeus did not like humans having fire, but he could not just come out and punish them for fear of them not sacrificing. So he creates women as a punishment. And he has Hephaestus create an example of the most beautiful woman ever. Who does Hephaestus think the most beautiful woman ever is?
Pandora.
No.
Herself.
No, not Paul. It's a person. No, Aphrodite.
Aphrodite. You sounded so confident though, Finley. And so he creates Pandora to look just like Aphrodite, his wife, who he thinks is beautiful. All the gods give her gifts that make she's all kinds of wonderful, except for Zeus, who is sneaky, and instead of giving her a good gift, what does he cram in her head?
Curiosity.
This little nugget of curiosity that he crams deep into her brain, sprinkles dust onto her, and then brings her life. She then gets to marry Epimetheus, and they live happily ever after. Till one day, he gives her a box and says, do not open this box because bad things are in there. And she fights it for a long time, but eventually why does she eventually open it?
Curiosity.
Because of that
Curiosity.
So then she opens the box, releases all of the evil into the world. Zeus gets to claim he's innocent. He was like, I didn't give you guys evils. That woman over there gave you evil. He's like, my hands are clean. Thus, he gets to then put evil into the world, but take none of the blame. And there is one good thing that comes out, and that one good thing is, and that was Athena being sneaky in the fact that she put hope in there to try and save people. All the evils in the world would be like the days when you have to go to science and math and you're ready to give up on the world, and you get to go, I get to go to English also. That's your hope that keeps you going. Not home, hope, different thing. I like to go home also. That's where my heart goes. So now, speaking of killing somebody, We go to the underworld. The first thing that happens when you get to the underworld, the first barrier is,
River
and this
Styx.
is the big river Styx. That's poisonous, kills you as soon as you touch it. How is it you
Previous.
Oh, person. Boat.
get a person on a boat? Works for me.
Oh, man.
His name is Charon. What do you have
Yes.
to give, boatman?
Money.
You need a coin to get across the river.
Gold.
There you go. That's where the gold coin comes
Wait.
in, and then he'll take you across.
Sharon looks a lot like a character from the video game Undertale.
Okay. And then once you get across to that main part of the underworld, you get to the second thing
That's what
blocking.
he's based off of, bro.
Now we all believe the same thing. And what is the creature blocking you from going any further?
The service.
Previous.
Dog thing. And his name is
Scooby-Doo.
Shaggy. And that's where Cerberus comes in, the three-headed dog thing. Then we have this main area, which is the Spodal Fields, where all the dead people are, regardless if you're a good or a bad dead person. It's also where Hades is hanging out on his throne. And Mrs. Hades. And what's Mrs. Hades' name?
Persephone.
Persephone. Although she's
Persephone.
part here. And so Persephone's also there. And this is where all the dead people are. Then we have a place for all the bad humans who have made Zeus mad. And where do we get the bad humans?
Tartarus.
That's correct. That's where Tartarus comes in. That's why I had the stories about Tantalus, who killed his child, and Sisyphus, who tricked Hades, and Ixion, who flirted with Hera, and stuff like that. Or you could be a really good person and go to the good place. And the good place is, not yet, we have our break. I get to torture you a little bit longer. I saw you pointing to the clock. I know, I feel bad, but I don't have emotions. And what's the good place called?
Elysian Fields.
There you go, Elysian Fields.
Elysian Fields.
Decorated by Demeter. There was flowers and growing things, all kinds of wonderful stuff. You could choose to be reborn, and if you got reborn 3 times, you went to a place called,
I love the
there you go. And that was up on Mount Olympus and made everything great, and that's Isle of the Blessed. Before we get to our story about teenagers being idiots, now we can take our 3-minute break. So pause, the screen, that was, and we're back. Let's continue our story after our mild spasmodic break as we get into our 2 stories about teenagers making poor choices and get a chance to go from there. Blue sheet wise, I mean, as long as you've got all the answers on it, you can push it to the sides. I don't think anything from our story today will be popping up on there, so you should be good. Before we get to Phaethon, I have to go back and talk about Apollo again. I know I've mentioned him before, but he plays a major role in today's story. So with Apollo, we talk about the fact, what are the 2 things Apollo is the god of?
Bodies and sun.
So
Bodies in the
we're
sun.
going to play a role here. So here's how the Greeks believed the sun worked. There were a number of mountains throughout the world. 2 of them play a role in this story. One of them was Apollo's one where he had a house, castle, palace at the top of it. And he would drive the sun chariot across the sky throughout the day. He would leave in the morning time, go all the way across, and then land over there in the evening time. What you saw in the sky was him in the chariot. Some stories say it was a helmet he wore that was full of flames. Some say it was the wheels. Some say the horses. Just sort of depends on whichever story it might be. As he goes across the sky, there are monsters up there that he had to dodge and fight. Giant bull, giant scorpion. There's a centaur up there. You'll know these monsters when you see them because you'll have, well, most of you will recognize them. These are the monsters that he would see as he
Aquarius, Taurus, those thingies.
what we see as the constellations and the horoscope signs, they thought were actual monsters up there that he had to dodge and fight. Evening time, he lands over here. Then he would travel down the mountain until he got down to the body of water. What's the body of water in the middle of the world called? He had a boat down there waiting for him. He would get on the boat with his big flaming chariot, go all the way across, go back up, start the whole process all over again. So he's still talking. So every single day, go across in the day, right across the night. Question comes up, why not just park there and then go back the other direction? Good idea. Why would that not work of just going that direction and then camping and then going back the other way the next day?
Because the sun sun's still up.
Not because the sun's still up, but you're on the right track.
Because the sun would go backwards.
Sun only goes in one direction. Well done, Jeriel. You don't have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's always going in the same way, so they had to find an explanation for it. Their explanation was him coming down here and riding across. Blaze?
Wait a minute. So if he took the boat over to the right mountain, to the right, then wouldn't it's not be at the mountain at the left?
So then while he's going across, the boat goes back across to pick him up the next day.
But who's in the boat to control it?
Not him, someone else.
So the sun, it goes in a circle.
So the sun,
Magic.
the sun go
So
Well, so I
It goes
thought you
east
said
to west.
So like this, it just keeps going.
So yeah, every day he goes across, and then they'd come back over this way. And then while he is going across, the driver of the boat would come back over to pick him up. So the boat guy had the same job. Problem is, for Apollo, this does not work for him because essentially he no longer gets to mac on the ladies. He's like, I don't want to be the god of the sun and hotties if I have no time to mac on the ladies. So he decides to finally retire from his job. And he steps down and goes, I am no longer going to be the sun god. And he hires another guy to do it, a god by the name of Helios. Helios steps up and takes over. So it is no longer Apollo's job. It becomes Helios's job. And Apollo goes, you know what? I'm still going to take the name sun god. I'm just not going to do any of the work that goes along with it. Helios went from being just a basic, normal, everyday Titan to getting to be the one that gets to drive the sun. So for him, big promotion. He's super excited. So
Isn't Helios something to do with fire?
For both of them, it was a win-win situation where you have now the fact that Helios gets to be a big, important god, and Apollo has time to mac on the ladies, so everyone is happy. What's up, Jeriel?
Doesn't Helios translate to something about fire?
It can. A lot of times, fire things are connected to him because of the Greek name. So it doesn't translate that as much as that people take their names to connect to him. So now we're going to deal with a kid by the name of Phaethon. It's Phaethon, but it's pronounced Phaethon. He was this kid that was just growing up in Greece. Everything is going wonderful till he gets to be teenagery, and he has sisters and stuff like that. They don't really show up much in the story. But at school one day, there's other kids there who start making fun of him. And the main thing they're harassing him about is the fact that his dad is not home. And whenever he goes and talks to his mom, she's like, you have a father, he's just not around. And the kids keep bullying him because kids are jerks and being mean. So one day, he goes home after getting bullied and attacked by the kids at school and talks to his mom. It's like, Mom, I'm really upset about the kids at school. They're making fun of me. They keep saying the fact that I don't have a dad. You say I have a dad, but he's not around. I need to know. What can you tell me? So eventually his mom goes, all right, here, let me help you out. And she brings him outside of their house, and she points up into the sky. She goes, do you see the sun up there? He goes, yeah. She goes, that is your father. He goes, the sun is my father? She goes, well, the man who drives the sun, Helios is your father. Before he had that as a job, he and I met and fell in love, and then you were born, and then he got promoted, and because of that, he's not around anymore, but he would be if he could. So he is your father. So you tell the kids at school you have a dad, and you point up there, and they will leave you alone. Phaethon's excited. Next day, he goes to school, walks in there to see all the other kids. He's like, listen, you big bozos, I do have a father. And he points up at the sky and goes, that's my dad. And the other kids go, your dad is the sun. He goes, my dad is Helios, god of the sun, and you should all bow before me. And the other kids go, you're an idiot. And they make fun of him, and they harass him even more. So he decides, after all of that, he is going to go find Helios and confront the sun god. And he's going to find out if Helios is his father or not. He's like, if Helios is my father, I'm going to get revenge on the bullies. If Helios is not my father, then I'm going to die in the process. So either way, this whole torture is going to be over. So he spends months trying to find out where this mountain is, runs away from home, leaves everyone behind, till one day he finds the mountain and he sees it at the taking off every morning where it's leaving, and so he starts the process of climbing up. Takes him days to get to the top of the mountain. Till one day, he gets there in the middle of the night before Helios has had time to leave. And he goes up and he finds a giant palace on top of the mountain, bangs on the doors, pushes them open, and steps in. He finds this giant throne room on the inside with this shining bright light coming from the far side, and he can barely see anything in there, and he knows this must be Helios' throne room, so he steps in and yells and goes, "Helios, my name is Phaethon. My mother says that you are my father. I am here to confront you to see if you are truly my dad or not." He then blinks several times, and all of a sudden the bright light vanishes. Turns out it was Helios putting away the giant burning thing on his head, putting it off to the side so that he could see, blinks his eyes several times, and sees Helios sitting on this throne in front of him. And Helios goes, "Phaethon, come forward." And Phaethon walks up and stands in front of him. And Helios reaches out his hand and he goes, "Phaethon, I am your father." And reaches out his hand. And Phaethon, thank you for getting my reference. And then Phaethon gets all excited, and there's hugging and celebrating, and Helios apologizes. He goes, "Listen, kid, your mom's right. I am your father. Shortly after you were born, I got promoted to this job. I've been doing it for the last several years. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing. I apologize. I've not been here this entire time. You know what? Here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you one wish to prove to you that I am your father and to help you with all these things going on since I've missed all of your birthdays till now. One wish, no, even better. I promise on the river Styx, whatever you ask of me, I will do it for you. You simply have to ask." Why is that such a big deal? If he breaks that promise, he's going to die.
He's dying.
So Phaethon gets excited. He's like, "Oh, buddy, game on." He's like, any wish I want. Well, he really wants to prove to the bullies back home that this guy is his father. And he figures the best way to prove that this guy is his father is if he can steal his dad's car. So he goes, "Here's what I want. I want you to let me drive your car for one day. You let me drive the sun chariot from one mountain to the other, and I can spell my name up there in the sky as I go flying around. I can point down there at the bullies and make fun of them. Everything will be perfect. That's all I want from you." Helios goes, "No." He goes, "What?" He goes, "Well, all right, here's the problem. Driving the sun chariot is not an easy thing to do. The horses are super powerful, and I'm full god. You're only half god. If you try to drive this car, it's going to kill you. You're simply not strong enough to do it. Choose something else." Phaethon refuses. He's like, "No, you're my father, blah, 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 blah. You promised, blah, 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 blah. Do what I want or you die." And Phaethon and Helios keep yelling at each other back and forth until all the alarms start going off in the castle saying it is time for the chariot to leave. It is time for dawn. Helios goes, "Listen, we'll talk about this later. I have to leave to go do my job. I'll come back tonight. We'll have dinner. We'll figure out what we can do." Phaethon goes, "No, I'm getting in your car. You can't stop me. You promised on the river Styx." And he takes off to the garage, jumps in the car, and takes off above Helios' screaming. And Phaethon shoots off into the sky. At first, he's super excited. He's like, "Rah, rah." Basically, you can imagine taking your dad's Ferrari and going cruising around the neighborhood at full speed, which he does, and he loves it. And it goes really well, being the fact that he's half god, he's all super strong, goes flying across up there, ends up getting somewhere over Africa when things start to go south. So as he's going across, gets somewhere over the African area, and then all of a sudden the first monster jumps out, a giant scorpion. And this giant monster comes at him. He freaks out. Did not know there were monsters up in the sky. So he does what any small child would do, shrieks, lets go of the reins, covers his eyes, and curls into a ball. He's like, no, and screams and tries to save himself. Does not work well. Horses go flying in different directions. He curls into a ball crying, and the big car of fire starts bouncing along Africa. As it bounces along Africa, hitting the ground with the horses, it burns everything in Africa, toasting all of the things that are on the ground, creating a land feature in Africa that had not been there before.
The Sahara Desert.
That creates the Sahara Desert. And so it ends up burning all the things off. Plus, it ends up burning the skin of anybody in that area, which is how the Greeks explained people of different races. The closer you were to that impact, the darker. It's not racist. The fact that they had no way of explaining it. So for them, it was the fact that you were close to the impact, so it darkened your skin. As you go out to the Middle East, your skin is still darker because you were close for the impact. So you get to Europe, these lily white people who are not near it at all, and they have no color pigmentation. And so the problem is, when it bounces off the ground, burning everything, it freaks out Zeus, because the whole prophecy of the world being destroyed in fire. So Zeus decides that he has to solve this problem of a runaway car. How does Zeus solve problems? Exactly. And that's what Zeus does. Grabs his lightning bolt, sees the kid, and just like, check out, and throws the lightning bolt and zaps him right out of the sky, killing Phaethon instantly.
Yay!
Car goes one way, horse goes one way, Phaethon body parts go flying another way. They end up landing in a river in the middle of Africa that is actually named after Phaethon. Sorry, hiccup. There is a river in Africa named after him that was thought to be where he landed. That goes all the way back to the story and him getting shot out of the sky by Zeus. They then have to go and rebuild the car for the next day and have everything start all over again. But it becomes their explanation for how the sun works, how we get the Sahara Desert, and if you ever badmouth your parents and don't listen to their directions, what's going to happen to
Your
you?
boss is going to smite you.
That's right. Zeus will kill you. So this was the story they would tell children whenever they weren't listening to their parents. Like, you know what happens when little kids don't listen to their parents? Zeus kills them. Speaking of kids who make poor choices, our next story. One about a girl named Arachne. This one,
That means spider.
actually it means Arachne. So Arachne was this basic human girl who was a teenager living in Greece, but she had a skill. She was really good at using a loom.
I didn't know this.
You guys ever go to Connor
Like
Trail?
spider webs.
Yeah.
And so they have these things where it's like the shaka
Oh,
things,
yeah.
and has like little strings that go across.
They're in Minecraft.
Yeah.
There are looms in Minecraft.
That could very well be. Minecraft has a lot of stuff.
Yes, Minecraft is life.
Apparently, that's the rumor. Minecraft is life. And so what you did with these is you used them to create giant pictures called tapestries, where essentially those are created by putting a string in it, and you push it back and forth, and it goes into it. Over here, if you look at my room, the thing I have up there on the wall, the Spider-Man thing, that's sort of a tapestry, which is why I have it over there. It was a giant thing made out of string, which was also sort of woven back together. So that's what this girl, Arachne, was really good at doing. She was sort of the LeBron James of weaving at the time. And it was popular enough that she would go out into the middle of her village and she would bring her loom with her and she would go out there and weave, and she would get crowds of people to show up and watch her. They had Arachne jerseys they would wear. They'd bring popcorn and cheer her on. It was a big event. To the point that the biggest compliment people felt they could give to her whenever they saw her out there weaving was like, you know what? As good as you are at all this, you must have been trained by the gods themselves. Not only were you trained by the gods themselves, you had to be trained by the god of weaving. And there was a god of weaving.
Why?
She was the god of wisdom, the god of war, and the god of weaving. And that would be Athena.
Tina.
Many of the people in town would tell her, you're so good at what you do, Athena must have trained you with how to weave. Arachne took it as an insult. And she would get upset and angry and mad. She's like, no, Athena did not tell me what I had to do all this. In fact, the gods had nothing to do with it. I did all this by myself. She started getting sassy and saying, you know what? One of two things is true. Either I was not taught by the gods, or the gods are not real, because I am better than the gods. And all the humans were like, oh, girlfriend, you did not go there, did you? And she was like, you know what? I just said I'm better than the gods, and I'm not dead, which means one of two things. Either there are no gods, or I'm better than the gods. And it only made her more popular. And all the kids in town thought she was the coolest thing in the world because she was sassy. She was good at what she did. She backtalked the gods, and nothing bad happened to her. Until one day, a woman shows up in town and sees her weaving and everyone cheering her on. They're all like, Arachne, Arachne, Arachne. And this old woman walks up and goes, hey, you know, you're pretty good at what you do. She's like, oh, thank you, random old woman. And the old woman goes, but I heard you say that you're better than the gods. That can't be true. You should probably apologize in case you ever get heard by the gods. It might come back to haunt you. Arachne goes, whatever, old woman. You're an idiot. If there were gods that existed, they would show up and challenge me. And you know what? No god ever has. So because of that, the gods don't exist. The old woman suddenly ripped off her skin and turned out to be Athena standing right there in front of her. Athena confronts Arachne and goes, listen, girl, I'm going to give you a chance to apologize right now, and I won't have to kill you. If you don't apologize, then there are consequences. The entire crowd goes quiet, and they all turn to look at Arachne, and she sees them all staring at her, and like any good teenager, she refuses to back down. So she looks at Athena and goes, no, I've got a better idea. If you think you're better than me, I say we have a competition. Let's have a weave off. And the crowd goes nuts. And they're like, weave off, weave off. And Athena agrees to it. She's like, all right, fine. We're going to have a weave off and see who wins this one. And half the crowd starts cheering for her. And they're like, Athena, Athena, that was Arachne. And they're all getting excited. They all start cheering. And then he goes, all right. Here are the rules of our competition. We are going to spend the afternoon weaving a picture. The picture has to involve the gods in some way.
Why?
And we are going to let the crowd decide who has the better picture. And the crowd's like, woo, yay. She goes, all right, begin. And they both start weaving. Shaka, 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 shaka. There's sweat coming down the front of them. There's like shaka, shucking back. The kid talking and trying to go to losing 12 points while the teacher's telling a story. I know it's a bold move. He's doing like shaka, shaka back and forth. Sweat's pouring down their face. Athena puts into her picture the gods doing all of these wonderful things. Like the gods, there's one of her bringing olives to Athens. There's one of Poseidon bringing water to people in need, of Prometheus bringing fire down to the humans. All of these things of gods doing wonderful things. Arachne goes a different direction. Arachne puts gods in hers, but it is not the gods being good. It is all the horrible things the gods have done, including Zeus being friendly. She includes a picture of every time. Zeus in the form of a swan going with Leto. Zeus sneaking around with Maia, mother of Hermes. Zeus killing Dionysus' mom by turning into a bright thing of light. And so all these pictures of the gods doing horrible and insulting things. Well, Athena can't see what Arachne's doing, but she's judging by the crowd's reactions. And the crowd's, ooh, oh, and they're pointing at her, looking over at Athena with big scared eyes. And Athena's finally like, what is going on? So Athena takes a break and stops in the middle of all the weaving, goes over and looks at what Arachne's doing. Sees the fact that, one, Arachne has insulted the gods. With her picture, it is one of the most insulting things she's ever seen. And two, her picture is better than Athena's. Athena recognizes the fact that Arachne was better than her. This girl is the best at weaving that she has ever seen. Athena flips out. In a fit of rage, she picks up her loom and starts beating Arachne with it while yelling at her right there in front of the crowd. Just picks it up, goes over, and just starts smashing the girl over the head. She's like, "You're so disrespectful. What is wrong with you? How can you do such a thing to the god?" The crowd loses it, and all of a sudden they're like, "Ooh, ah!" Arachne is screaming and trying to run from Athena. Athena's dragging her back and throwing her on the ground and beating her with more. String is flying everywhere. The loom breaks into pieces. The poor Arachne is beaten half to death. In the process, Athena, in the process of beating this poor girl down, turns around and sees the crowd and realizes, uh-oh, I made it bad. And she turns to the crowd, like, my apologies. And she has her back to Arachne. She's like, "Hey, I kind of snapped. Probably shouldn't have beaten a girl with a loom. That may be a little too far. I apologize on that one." While she's talking, Arachne realizes she just got embarrassed in front of all of her friends. She just got whooped by this god. So what she ends up doing is, there's a nearby tree. She goes over to this nearby tree, grabs a bunch of the string that was being used to make the tapestry, wraps the string around her own neck, climbs up into the tree as Athena's talking, and hangs herself from this tree right behind Athena. Athena doesn't see it happening. She's in the process of talking, and the crowd keeps trying to get her attention. Like, no, what? Turn around, behind. Athena's like, "What? I know. I beat a girl almost to death. Why are you all freaking out? You're all turning around." She's like, "Ah!" She turns around and sees Arachne hanging from the tree. She goes like, "Ah!" Realizes what kind of thing she just did, and Athena feels bad and guilty. Goes over to Arachne hanging there. Is like, "Arachne, you are sassy. You insulted the gods. You were disrespectful, but you are really good at weaving. You don't deserve to die. I cannot let you die like this." And she brings her down from the tree, but says, "At the same time, I can't let you live for the insults that you gave us. So because of that, I am going to make you weave for the rest of your life. You will weave from now until the day you die, and your descendants will weave from now until the day you die also. And instead of being a human, you will from now on be a spider." And so she turns Arachne into the very first spider, which is why the name for a spider, the scientific name,
Arachne.
is an arachnid, which comes from Greek mythology. Arachne. And so that was the idea of why it is that spiders weave webs. Goes back to the fact that Arachne beat Athena in a weaving contest. So Leah,
Why are most things connected to Greek mythology?
that's the one. At the very beginning of the unit, that's why I tried to tell you guys that of all the things I teach you, this will explain more than almost anything else. Greek mythology, just the stories were fun, and people picked up on them and just sort of connect them to everything.
I read the story before.
And this is only like the tip of Greek mythology stuff that's out there. Graham, sure, points or pass? Points or pass? 3. The other fun thing that Greek mythology taught us is dancing. And now it is time for our final dancing. Yeah.
Well, dead sprint to the back.
Do I put this on your desk?
Not till the end of class. All right, let's see. We're going to
I have a question, Mr. BroviCast.
stop recording. And
Woo,
we're going to
I have a
look at that.
question.
Now you've spent the 12 points.
Come on,
Oh, no, that's not.
I agree. Now we get to move you over to there.
12? I thought you said it was 15 though.
It is. 15, you get the detention. 12, you move over to there because they put you in the hallway on Tuesday or Wednesday, because then when you can't lose any more points, you get the automatic detention.